Hi guys, welcome to Twin Perspective. I'm Joe, and tonight I'm going to be ranking the films of David Lynch. David Lynch is my favorite director, and tonight I'm going to be ranking his top 10 films. These are the feature films, theatrically released, no shorts, no TV. My 10 favorite David Lynch films. I'm going to start with the bottom of the barrel, number 10. Inland Empire. Very, very good movie. I give it an 8 out of 10. Everything Lynch does is wonderful. The performances are great. And as great as all of them are, Laura Dern shines. I would have given her the Academy Award for Best Actress that year. Of course, the Academy didn't look at it that way, so I'm thinking they could have at least nominated her. I'm biased though, because I'm a huge fan. Laura Dern killed it in that. It's a wonderful film. It's Lynch's venture into digital, and it was a bit of a disappointment for me because I enjoy the aesthetic of the film, and although he was like a kid playing with a new toy, he's a genius, so he was able to put some stuff on that 4-hour movie that's pretty memorable, but the story wasn't jiving with me. Normally with Lynch, I have to watch everything a couple of times to catch most of the stuff, and my journey is pleasurable and enjoyable, but Inland Empire just didn't make me feel the same way. I was struggling with a lot of it, and upon my third viewing, I realized that it's just not a film of his like that I can enjoy like I do all his others. It's a wonderful piece of art, but just not my cup of tea. Number 9 films of David Lynch. The Straight Story. Walt Disney presents a film by David Lynch. What an amazing film this is. Full of incredible characters based on a true story. Great performances. Screenplay's wonderful. The music's incredible. The direction's impeccable. And if you've skipped over The Straight Story because it is a Walt Disney film, you must watch it. David Lynch does not need to have an R rating to produce an amazing, beautiful film, and that's what he did with this. Richard Farnsworth's lead acting performance garnished him an Academy Award nomination. Sissy Spacek is in it and does a great job. Great film. Soundtrack by Badalamenti, just beautiful. And the cinematography, wonderful film, heartwarming, great ending, and you guys should check it out if you haven't seen it yet. It's number 9 on my list. I give it an 8 out of 10. Alright, at number 8 on my list, Dune. Now, when this movie came out, I was 13 years old. So, sci-fi film like this, coming out the same time that the great Star Wars films were coming out, and I was excited to see Dune. I remember not knowing a thing about film directors at the time, just knowing that I was a kid that enjoyed sci-fi and that this film was well made, with an incredible cast, and I enjoyed it. And as I grew older and learned about Lynch, especially learning about how this film failed at the box office, it was disappointing for me because it seems like a lot of people don't even give it a shot. And those that do and are well versed in the books probably were disappointed for one reason or another. Thankfully, I had never read the book or any of the books, so I judged it as a film, which I loved, and absolutely loved the performances in it. It might be Lynch's best cast of any of his films. So I know a lot of you don't like Dune. I know a lot of you read the book and then nothing's going to satisfy you. I always try to watch the remake first if I've never seen the original. I'm going to love the originals or the books because they're the classic, they're the original. So I don't have to see it first. I'll see the remake first and judge it for what it is. I know I'm going to appreciate the original one way or the other. You don't have your choice like that all the time, but I did when Dune came out. I give it an 8 out of 10. Thought it was a really good movie. All right, number 7 on my list of films of David Lynch. This might surprise some people. Mulholland Drive. Mulholland Drive is an incredible film. I give it a 9 out of 10. If it would have became a television series, it would have been watched by me for sure. The first 2 hours, which was essentially the TV pilot, it was just brilliant filmmaking. Reminded me of Hitchcock. The performances were great. The photography was out of this world. And the story was interesting and just strange enough, but it was grounded. And then the last 20 to 25 minutes happens and your whole world's flipped upside down. So a lot of people love this, and upon multiple viewings you start to understand and make sense of a lot of it. You know, people take what they want out of it, and after multiple viewings by myself, I realized what was happening here with the last 20 minutes and came to enjoy the film more than I actually did the first couple of viewings. Sitting here watching a film and looking at the 10-question cheat sheet and trying to put it all together, and it was a little too over the top for me. But mostly because I enjoyed that first 2 hours so much as a standalone television pilot with no nudity or profanity or anything. It was just a great mystery, and I would have loved to have seen it expanded upon. And what we got instead was the entire series of Mulholland Drive just removed. So you get the beginning and then you get the end, which seems out of context without all this beautiful work that could have been on television for ABC. Instead, they decided not to go with it. Lynch finished the film and released it as a film, and it's considered one of the greatest films of the past century and of our new century. It's a wonderful, wonderful film, nominated for multiple Academy Awards. Mulholland Drive, and it's number 7 on my list. Number 6 on my list of films by David Lynch. Dun, 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 dun. Lost Highway. What a great movie. I enjoy this film. It felt right. The way it flowed from one character to the other, the way it ended, it just felt right. The mystery man felt right. This film had an effect on me when I watched it like no other film had ever had, or probably has ever had since. I had this strong feeling of uneasiness and nausea and just pain. And I realized I was able to connect with this character Bill Pullman was playing, and all of his deepest, darkest demons that were pushing him to the dark side. This all just seemed obvious to me. I almost sensed everything that was going to happen to him in the way that he was approached by Patricia Arquette's character, and it had a profound effect on me. It was one of those things where I was going to be critical of Lynch too, because I was in love with Twin Peaks and was in love with Fire Walk with Me, and then Lost Highway was coming out, and I thought, this isn't Twin Peaks or whatever it is. I'm not going to be happy because it should have been Twin Peaks. I always felt like Lynch should have just kept pushing out Twin Peaks. But Lost Highway made me a believer, and it made me a believer upon first viewing. I love that movie. I love the soundtrack. I know that it dates the film more than any soundtrack does for Lynch. Usually there's a mixture of 50s and 80s, and this was pure 90s. The soundtrack in itself is brilliant, and the performances were great. I love the photography, and I really enjoyed the soundtrack. Nice to see Lynch venture into something like that for once, and hit a home run, in my opinion. Lost Highway, I give it a 9 out of 10. And it's my 6th favorite David Lynch film. My 5th favorite David Lynch film is The Elephant Man. And yes, this is a phallic symbol. Sorry. The Elephant Man. Possibly the saddest film ever made. I've seen it so many times, and I cry from beginning to end, and it never fails. It's beautifully presented, beautifully acted, incredible screenplay, memorable. Black and white, great characters that come in and out, that fuel this sad story of someone who went through something that all of us should be thankful every day we don't have to deal with. An incredible story based on a true story, and it was really David Lynch's first major production, and he did an incredible job, such a good job that he was nominated for an Academy Award, and so was John Hurt for his performance as Joseph John Merrick, the Elephant Man. It's number 5 on my list, and I give it a 10 out of 10, which means everything on this list from here on out is 10 out of 10. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of David Lynch. He doesn't do me wrong. Number 4 on my list of favorite David Lynch films. This could be number 1 on anybody's list of David Lynch films, and it would be acceptable. Eraserhead. The greatest student film ever made. Took 5 years to finish, I believe. There was a huge gap in between production. Took a lot of people, a lot of time and energy for this film to get finished. And when it was, it became, in my opinion, the greatest midnight movie ever made. The definitive cult classic. One of my favorite bands of all time is The Cure, and the lead singer for The Cure, Robert Smith, fashioned his hairstyle after the lead character in Eraserhead, Jack Nance, who plays Henry Spencer. And I was a fan of The Cure before I was a fan of Lynch. And this was what brought me to Eraserhead. Oh, Robert Smith wanted to do his hair like this guy. Let me check it out and see what's going on. And I was at just the right age, too, 17 years old, when I finally got around to watching it. Blew me away. And when I watched it the second time, I had an entirely different feeling about the entire movie. And it was just as good of a feeling. I was scared shitless the first time I watched it, and I laughed my ass off the second time I watched it. So basically, there you go. No film ever did that to me before. There's a reason why Lynch is my favorite, because his films affect me. And the more I watch Eraserhead, the more I can relate to what's going on and what, my interpretation of what Lynch meant by it. Definitely isn't your basic college kid film, that's for sure. You guys could say it's the best film he ever did, and I couldn't argue. Eraserhead's number 4 on my list. Alright, now we're getting to the top 3. And these 3 films are actually in my top 10 all-time favorites. This next film is number 5 on my all-time favorite list. And it's number 3 on my films of David Lynch list. It's Wild at Heart and Weird on Top. I would set it on fire right now, but that would be too dramatic. I might light another cigarette though, great motif in that film. Wild at Heart, my favorite screenplay of all time. And actually, it might be surprising, but it's also what I think is David Lynch's best effort as far as direction goes. So I believe this movie is one of the best films ever. And if people aren't in love with Wild at Heart the way they are with Eraserhead or perhaps Blue Velvet, then I guess it didn't hit them at the right time. It hit me at the right time. I was in my early 20s. I must have been 19 or 20 when I saw it. And it blew me away, much like Quentin Tarantino blows all of his fans away. This was great. It preceded True Romance. And it had an incredible cast. One of my favorite performances ever by Diane Ladd in this film. I'd have to rank it as one of my favorite supporting actress performances ever. Like I said, my favorite screenplay ever. Nicolas Cage at the top of his game. And Laura Dern can do no wrong. And she was playing a character that only Johanna Ray and David Lynch could envision. Her playing it and doing such a great job. Insanely incredible villain in Willem Dafoe. And a great Rowdy Road movie. And I know the book ends differently than the film, but I love the way the film ended. I also appreciated the Wizard of Oz hints everywhere. Wild at Heart, number 3. Number 2 on my list of favorite David Lynch films, and my number 4 favorite film of all time. She wore blue velvet. From the beginning to the end, a perfect movie, absolutely perfect. 10 out of 10. The bluer than blue skies, the whiter than white picket fence, the yellower than yellower tulips and redder than redder roses, the greener than greener grass. And you look deep enough, it reveals the blacker than black bugs that fight, and we see the seedy underbelly of regular Americana. An insane movie, a detective story, a story about a kid. It's horrific villain, my favorite villain ever, probably Frank Booth, my favorite supporting actor performance of all time, Dennis Hopper's Frank Booth. The screenplay, Only Wild at Heart beats Blue Velvet as far as my favorite screenplay goes, and really they're just neck and neck. So many memorable lines, an insanely incredible soundtrack. This 80s film that just goes into the 50s and back to the 80s, and Kyle MacLachlan just showing his chops, and Laura Dern being beautiful, and Isabella Rossellini just capturing the camera like few actresses ever have in a film. And Dennis Hopper, that performance, wow. I could go on and on about Blue Velvet, but I'm going to finish this up with my favorite David Lynch film of all time, and my favorite film of all time. Twin Peaks, Fire Walk with Me. Any film by Twin Peaks would be one of my favorites, I'm sure, especially if directed by David Lynch. At this point, as I'm filming this, we're pretty close to the end of Twin Peaks: The Return on Showtime, and I'm seeing just how brilliant it is. I'm loving it more than half of Lynch's films, and about as much as I did the original Twin Peaks series. This is Lynch at his top form, and the reason why I think I love it so much is because I love Twin Peaks so much. I love the characters. I love the combo of Lynch and Mark Frost. I love the world of Twin Peaks. And in Fire Walk with Me, he dives into the part of that world that we didn't see right in front of our face for the entire series. It's a film that is a nightmarish descent into hell. The performance by Cheryl Lee is my favorite ever by a lead actress. Ray Wise is my favorite actor. He does an insanely incredible job. The soundtrack's one of my favorite soundtracks ever. Angelo Badalamenti. He's taking that Twin Peaks vibe and kicking it into another gear. Something he's doing a little bit with in The Return. So all in all, Twin Peaks: Fire Walk with Me, my favorite Lynch film. Beautifully done in every way. Lynch has a lot of films that I prefer the cinematography to, or the editing to, or the screenplay to. But as far as the lead performances, Cheryl Lee and Ray Wise in Fire Walk with Me just kill it. The story, I'm emotionally invested. And to join Laura in that descent was horrifying, and done so well by Lynch that I consider it my favorite movie ever. And I've seen it probably 50 times. So that's it. Those are my favorite films of David Lynch. You guys can comment on the bottom, let me know what you think. Please subscribe to Rosenfield 10 for more videos like this by people who love Twin Peaks and love David Lynch. Perhaps my brother James will let you know his favorites in an upcoming video, or I'll add them down low in the description. And that is it. I'm Joe. Great fan of David Lynch, and that's how I see it. Thanks for watching, and this has been Twin Perspective. I'll talk to you later, and I'll see you in the trees. Bye.